you're following all the rules of diabetes that your doctor told you, you probably aren't thriving. I would guess you're probably pretty frustrated with your blood sugars. You're having highs and lows and you don't know why. You feel like you don't know what to eat. Diabetes is screwing up your life on a regular basis and you're frustrated and you're tired and you're mad and you're confused. And you're like, what the heck? I'm doing all the things they told me to do. Now listen, my husband told me he didn't want a third dog, but I brought Teddy home anyway. And guess what? Teddy is everyone's favorite dog. Even my husband is obsessed with him. My point is that sometimes breaking the rules is a really good idea. Right, buddy? You're such a good boy. The first rule that I break almost all the time, eat breakfast every day. I basically skip breakfast at least 5 days a week. Here's why. Intermittent fasting has been awesome for my life with type 1 diabetes. Intermittent fasting simply means that I don't eat between the hours of waking up until 1 p.m. Now that's just my preferred fasting schedule. You can choose a different 8-hour window of time, but here's why I love it. Intermittent fasting means that I'm not thinking about food. I'm not worried about insulin doses. My blood sugar is just hanging out. Intermittent fasting also immediately reduces my calorie consumption by about 400 to 500 calories. That is just the right amount because you take that amount, multiply it by 7, and that's about what it takes to gain 1 pound. So intermittent fasting is preventing me from eating those extra calories that lead to weight gain. Intermittent fasting has helped me lose postpartum baby weight from 2 pregnancies. Both pregnancies, I had about 8 pounds to lose after the baby was born. And I absolutely credit intermittent fasting combined with regular exercise and eating that 80-20 diet. That is what helped me lose weight. And intermittent fasting makes it easier for me to keep my calories in that ideal amount that helps me manage my goal weight. Rule number 2 I break all the time, I turn my CGM off when I sleep. I know you're not supposed to do that. I don't do it all the time, but I've started doing it quite a bit. Sleep is important. Sleep is very important to me. And I know that I don't have tons of insulin on board where I'm gonna have some mysterious, unexpected crash in my blood sugar that's gonna kill me in the middle of the night. So I feel pretty confident turning my CGM off and knowing I am safe. I know I will also wake up eventually if I dip below 65. I just know that I will because I went many years without a CGM. I've lived with type 1 diabetes for 25 years, and for the first 15 of those years, CGMs did not exist. So I feel okay turning it off. But more importantly, I value my sleep, and that CGM alarm is not great when you want to hang out in the 70s. I feel safe sleeping in the 70s because I have very carefully calculated my long-acting insulin dose, and I know how much insulin I have on board. I have studied the heck out of my blood sugars and my insulin doses. I don't have hugely unexpected swings in my blood sugar very often. There are many moments where I might be sitting around, let's say 145, and then it pops up to 151, and then my high alarm goes off. Or on the reverse, I'm sitting in the 70s, which is where I want to be. And then it pops down to 69, and then my low alarm goes off, but then it's going to pop back up to the 70s. So that CGM fluctuation and inaccuracy is interrupting my sleep, and I don't want it. Rule number 3 I keep breaking every day, I don't eat before exercise. Your doctor will tell you you've got to eat 15 grams of carbs before you exercise. Depending on what else is going on in your blood sugars, your insulin dose, the type of exercise, you could end up really high because of that 15 grams of carbs. Instead, I try to time my exercise for when I'm in a fasted state, which means I haven't eaten in about 3 to 4 hours since before the time I'm going to start exercising. That means I haven't taken a dose of rapid-acting insulin either. And yes, this is a little different if you're on an insulin pump, but you can still make it work. Fasted exercise simplifies exercise. It reduces your risk of low blood sugar because you don't have all that insulin on board from eating a meal. So I'm exercising before I eat instead of after I eat. I teach everything you need to know about that in this book. Find it in the show notes. Rule number 4 that I break all the time, I eat dessert pretty much every day. Why is that helping me? Because I don't feel deprived and stressed out about food. I feel about as stressed out about food as Teddy looks right now, and he looks pretty chill. By making room in my diet for dessert every single day, I'm telling my brain, hey, you don't have to obsess about this. You don't have to be on crazy diets. You don't have to restrict all the carbs or eat only meat for the rest of your life in order to maintain your weight and stay sane about food. By including dessert in my diet, I give myself a really good motivation to eat mostly whole foods, mostly really healthy foods throughout most of the day. And I don't feel deprived because I know at the end of the day, I get to have, I don't know, homemade gluten-free brownies, triple layer gluten-free cake, banana zucchini muffins, whatever the heck I want. Rule number 5, and this is a really important one, I don't wait for my doctors to make adjustments to my insulin doses. I learned how to make them myself. A lot of people are gonna freak out about that. They're gonna say, how dare you suggest that we adjust our own insulin doses? That's dangerous. I'm gonna tell you it's actually more dangerous if you don't learn how to do this. Imagine you're having low blood sugars every day after breakfast, but your next doctor's appointment is 3 months away. Oh, my high alarm is going off. I'm gonna deal with that real quick. Pop a 4 cartridge of Afrezza. And that's it. So listen, back to insulin doses. If your blood sugar is dropping every day or it's spiking every day, and you wait till your next doctor's appointment, there's a good chance that that isn't gonna get addressed because you're not gonna figure out what's going on in your daily life that's causing that low or that high. Your doctor's appointment is like 15 minutes. And your doctor doesn't have time to ask you like, hey, are you walking every day? And then you eat this for breakfast and you have this much insulin on board and that's what's causing your low. You can figure that out, but you have to step back and look at all the variables that are going on that are causing low or high blood sugars. Every blood sugar level is just the result of either getting too much insulin, not enough insulin, or just the right amount of insulin based on the other variables that are going on. Now, I know that's really oversimplifying it because those other variables are complicated. Some of them you can control, some of them you cannot. But if you take the time to start looking at them, then you get to learn how to adjust your own insulin doses. And those adjustments make a huge difference in your ability to thrive while taking insulin for any type of diabetes. Okay, for example, back to Teddy. No, seriously, this is about diabetes. When we got Teddy, I was so excited to be walking him because he'd never been taken on a walk before. And he loves walking. He's only 8 pounds, but he can walk like 4 miles while my other dogs are like trying to keep up with him. But that extra walking, guess what? That made me extra sensitive to insulin. So even though I was walking in a fasted state and I wasn't going low from having any rapid acting insulin on board, overall, I was still burning more calories and my metabolism was ramped up from those extra few miles of walking, which means I need less basal insulin. So I made a teeny adjustment, just a 5% reduction, and that meant that I wasn't going low all day long because of Teddy's impact on our walking schedule. You gotta learn how to adjust your own insulin. It is a must, but you're always making small, careful adjustments. Small, 5 to 10% of the dose is changing at one time. I teach more on that in this book. Find it in the show notes. Rule number 6 that I break all the time, I don't eat any fake sugar. I think it's all pretty gross. And actually, I used to drink diet soda all the time. Fresca, that was my diet soda of choice. Gosh darn it, this is what drives me nuts about the Libre 3. The alarm is going off. It already went off 5 minutes ago. I know my blood sugar is above 150. I don't need to hear about it again. Okay. Back to that whole thing about diet soda. I quit drinking diet soda when I realized that just because something has 0 calories and 0 grams of sugar doesn't mean it's harmless. There is so much controversial research out there about whether aspartame and sucralose are safe and good for you or whether they're actually like kind of really toxic. You might notice though, in the studies that say aspartame is safe, they're paid for by the American Beverage Association. The ABA is owned by Pepsi and Coca-Cola, the people that sell the drinks that contain the aspartame. So that should tell you something about the studies that say it's safe. Just because it doesn't raise my blood sugar doesn't mean it's safe and healthy. But even if you don't care about that, even if you don't care about the research, here's the other way that quitting diet soda has really helped me. I'm way more sensitive to sweetness. When I was drinking diet soda all the time and I was getting that super sweet aspartame every day, the taste of seltzer was so bitter to me I couldn't stand it. Now that I don't drink aspartame all the time, seltzer tastes amazing. My sweet tooth is so much calmer. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of other variables that went into this, but when I was drinking diet soda every day, I was the heaviest I've ever been in my life. I removed all the diet soda and I'm the leanest I've ever been in my life. So yeah, I know it's not just one factor that led to this or that, but that should tell you a little bit that drinking diet soda is not the secret to weight loss. Drinking diet soda is not the secret to staying thin or getting thin. In fact, it might work against you because there is research that says aspartame actually causes insulin resistance. So over time, you need more insulin because you're drinking diet soda. That's what that research suggests. Who needs aspartame when they've got you? You're so sweet. He is really the best. Okay, the last rule that I break all the time, I take medicine that's meant for type 2 diabetes. I take a little bit of Ozempic and quite a bit of metformin. And I'll tell you what, I'm so glad I take these medications. I used to have kind of an ego about, I'm diabetic, but the only medicine that I have to take for my health is insulin. Look at me, I'm so special. But I realized that insulin isn't the only hormone my body struggles to produce normal amounts of. When your immune system attacks and destroys your beta cells, which make insulin, they also are ruining the communication between beta cells and these other cells that manage the production of 5 other hormones. And those hormones manage things like your appetite, telling your brain you're full while you're eating, telling your liver how much sugar to make every day or to stop making sugar because you just ate a meal. It's a whole bunch of things and they impact us every single day, and we're not even aware of it because we're so used to it, because nobody told us at the doctor's office that this is even happening, because they weren't going to give us anything to do about it. This one actually gets me a little bit worked up. So metformin tells your liver to make less sugar. And if you have type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes, you are producing too much sugar. And yeah, that's gonna make it harder to keep your blood sugar in range, gonna make it harder to keep your weight down, to manage insulin sensitivity. I mean, come on. Not everybody can tolerate metformin, but if you can, it's really helpful. And I take a little dose of Ozempic. Ozempic and the other GLP-1 drugs like it, like Trulicity, Mounjaro, they mimic the things that those other hormones you aren't producing normal amounts of would be doing for you, like telling you you're full, telling your liver to stop producing so much darn sugar. Ozempic is really helpful as a person with type 1 diabetes. It's a game changer. And if you talk to other type 1s who are taking it, they'll tell you the same thing. Life-changing. Holy moly, it's so much easier to stay in range. Holy moly, it's so nice to not feel hungry all day long. There are a few type 1s who are like, I've never experienced any of that. To them, I say, awesome, good for you. But most of us are experiencing that. So I'm breaking the rules. I'm taking medications that are meant for type 2 diabetes, even though I have type 1. Moral of the story is don't do everything you're told. That's true when it comes to adopting dogs. It's true when it comes to listening to your husband. Definitely true when it comes to managing diabetes. You've got to think for yourself and develop your own plan, your own routine, your own ideas about what your body needs. The people who are thriving with diabetes, they're thinking for themselves. They're not following someone else's rules or someone else's playbook. They're doing the research, they're doing the work, they're figuring out what helps them thrive.